It is an absolutely gorgeous day here at Steel City, USA, Delmont, Pennsylvania, as we get set to wrap up the 1994 AMA 125 Outdoor National Championship. Hello, everyone. I'm John Kernan, along with Jan Beekes. Doug Henry on the verge of his second straight title. What's he got to do?
John, all Doug Henry has to do is finish in the top 6 of either moto, regardless of what Ryan Hughes or Steve Lamson might do. So unless there's some real unforeseen circumstances, a crash or a mechanical problem, today's going to be Doug Henry's day.
So it should be a great battle, though, for second place. 3 riders separated by just 17 points.
17 points, anything can happen. Think about Steve Lamson, Ryan Hughes, and Damon Huffman. Anything could happen there, but think of the Honda team also. They want to try and finish 1-2 here. They want Lamson to move up into second place so they can advertise Honda 1-2. We'll have to see what happens.
Well, it should be a great day to wrap up the 1994 season. Let's take a look at the track.
John, this is one of the fastest tracks on the circuit. It's hard-packed. They fly, but most importantly, it's wide, it's spacious. Lots of great passing here.
Lots of different lines for passing. We said it should be a great day. Well, it could be an excellent, a most excellent day for Doug Henry. He won the national championship last year, and as we told you, he just has to finish 6th in either moto to wrap up his second straight title. Welcome back to Steel City, USA, Delmont, Pennsylvania. We get set for the start of Moto number 1. Steve Lamson, a lot on his mind, trying to chase down Ryan Hughes, who holds the 2nd spot in the battle for the points championship. Earlier, Jerry Bernardo talked with Rhino.
This is it, the last day, the last chance we're going to have here. How are you going to grab that number 1 plate? 36 points. How the heck, what'd you say, a kid had to get amnesia? You know, the Henry kid?
Yeah, if he felt his box fan knocked his head or something, got amnesia, forgot he knew how to ride or something, then, you know, maybe there's a chance. But, I mean, it's a lot of points, but then there's still a chance to win it. But, you know, I'm just going to go out there and try, you know, winning the last race of the year, going out so everybody knows, you know, I'll be strong for next year. And, you know, it's not really, you know, I'm just going to ride my race, and whatever happens, happens. That's all I can do out there right now.
Ryan Hughes, all he can do is go for it. And yes, we have a helicopter. This is the final event of the season. We spare no expense, and we should get some great shots of the motos today from that high view atop the track. There's the sign getting ready to go. 40 riders at the gate. They are off. Doug Henry, you get a good shot here. They'll go up, make a left-hand turn. We can see a Honda. It wasn't Henry who got the whole shot, but it was someone on a Honda. And look at that. It's number 92, Mike Brown. But Doug Henry is right there. Mike Brown, remember that great job he did in the Grand Prix support race at Budds Creek. And Mike Brown, out of Gray, Tennessee, is your leader.
Mike Brown won both of those support events at Budds Creek going away, so he knows how to ride up in the front. But did you see at the start, Doug Henry and company had chosen the far left, and boy, did they ever rub elbows going up to that first turn.
It could have been a dangerous move for Doug Henry as he was on that inside. He could have gotten dumped, and that could have really closed things up in the championship point. As you see, Ryan Hughes is riding along back in 3rd. Then there's Robbie Rayner. Hey, look at that. There's Kevin Windham. Also, Davey Yezik, also with a good start. But Mike Brown got the best start of all. He came from the middle of the pack to take that hole shot, Jan. Apparently, it was all timing right there, because I can't imagine that he would have more horsepower and gearing than Doug Henry would.
I think it was timing, and I think it was Ryan Hughes and Doug Henry and a couple of these other guys that were rubbing on each other, and they had to back off of it just a little. What a great shot we have from the helicopter here. Like we said, Steele's Communications sparing no expense on the final round here. What a great perspective. You know, you can see how fast these guys are riding from the helicopter shot. Now look at this whole series here. Oh, Mike Brown's in a little bit of trouble. Here he comes. What a great way to see the lead change with our championship point leader going right to the front.
Well, as you said, Mike Brown had a little bit of a problem right there. Doug Henry, the factory rider, defending national champion, about to wrap up his second straight 125 outdoor title, takes advantage of the mistake. And look at this helicopter shot, Jan. They are down. It looks like they're just hovering above the ground a little bit. I hope they don't blow the riders off.
Man, these guys, boy, you can really see the kind of air time they get from the helicopter shot. I'll be very interested to see. There's Ryan Hughes, Robbie Raynard behind him, and then Kevin Windham's in that group. I will just cannot wait to see what happens with those three guys.
Taking a look at it once again, you see Mike Brown, a little bit of a problem there in setting up for a double. Doug Henry doubles it, and he takes over that top spot. Just a little more power. You just have to make one small bobble, and it can cost you a position, sometimes more than one position. But Doug Henry has the position that he wants, the #1 spot for the #1 plate, trying to maintain that #1 plate for next year. Now we look back at the battle for second. You see that Mike Brown is just a couple of bike lengths in front of Ryan Hughes.
We should also mention on the previous helicopter shot, we had an opportunity to see that Kevin Windham and Robbie Raynard kind of got together. That's why Windham at the moment has kind of dropped out of contest.
Man, this is an excellent shot. You can see just how high up they get on these jumps, Sean. I mean, they are really skying it. Look at that.
Looks like they're going to jump right into the helicopter. Man, look how far they fly there. This is absolutely one of the greatest perspectives I have seen in motocross. We've stood on along the sides of a lot of these, but never had a chance to see it from a helicopter.
One thing I'd like to see, maybe we can talk and get it into the budget for next year, an onboard camera. Either off the rear fender or off the front fender. I mean, that could be great. Fisheye lens, you know, when they get down there in the turns next to each other, that could give you some great shots. That's something we need to tell our producer, Steve Garvey. Steve, you need to go out, budget that next year. Jan will pay for it.
Well, we have seen in some Supercross, we have seen on occasions a helmet cam. You got to remember when you put one of those, well, let's get back to this action because we are having some action.
Oh, look at Mike Brown look back, points at him. Said, don't you? Hey, you rubbed me the wrong way, buddy. But I think Mike Brown just lost his concentration. He got a little bit squirrely right there. And Yanni lost his composure and lost the second position.
You know, this is a contact sport, and Mike Brown's going to have to learn that guys like Ryan Hughes come up and bump into you just to try and take your concentration away, and it certainly worked here for Ryan. But I'll tell you what, I bet that Mike Brown is fired up, and he's going to try and go back after Hughes.
Well, we know that Mike Brown, even though he's basically an independent riding for Jim's Motorcycles, basically an independent, is a good rider, and he will get everything he can out of that bike. But chasing down these factory guys is just something else. And there you see Robbie Raynard just using that factory power to go right on by.
Well, you can see that the drive was important. We talked about that at the last round, that it is so important to get that rear tire on the ground, get back into the throttle, and Robbie Raynard, who's one of the loosest riders, lets that bike work underneath him. He looks like one of the fastest riders on the course. Look at this. He goes to the inside. This is the replay with Hughes. That's where they made contact. This is, hey, don't try that again. But right there, that made Mike Brown lose his momentum. Then, wow, Ryan Hughes really intimidated there and just bulldozed his way to the front. Now we have the opportunity to see Robbie Raynard do a similar type of deal, but here this was without contact, just getting the power down earlier and getting up to that corner first.
And look at Kevin Windham. He closes in. He has gotten around Mike Brown, and there's another. Oh, that's the Honda of Steve Lamson. Jan, he is just flying his way through.
Here he comes. He just blew past Kevin Windham. Man, he knows that he has to get up there. He wants to go for second in the championship, and we'll find out how that resolves when we come back.
Back at Steel City, USA, Delmont, Pennsylvania, round 12 out of 12 in the battle for the AMA 125 Outdoor National Championship. We've got quite a battle shaping up for the third spot, but let's go back up front very quickly. Take a look at Doug Henry. He's leading Ryan Hughes and Jan. We said it before. All Doug has to do is finish 6th in this first moto, and he's got the championship locked up.
He does look as though it's going to be his day, but right now, Steve Lamson is trying to see if he can't hone in on second in the championship. Right now, he's working on Robbie Raynard.
Well, that's a battle for third place. Raynard is third, Lamson is fourth. Of course, Ryan Hughes, who leads Lammy by just 7 points for that second spot. He currently runs in the second position.
Well, he's just ahead here. There, he just goes through the picture, so I'm not sure if Robbie Raynard is closing on him, but I know these two guys know that they're close to each other. That is Lamson and Raynard. So it looks like Raynard's turning up the heat, but here comes Lamson.
Well, Raynard on the outside. He washes out just a little bit. He gets onto a bump wrong and tries to do the late apex there, but Steve Lamson with that inside line sweeps around. Lammy taking over the third position.
That was a case of Lamson getting on the brakes later, and then he had it on the brakes, and he just slid it in there. That was a beautiful move by Lamson. That was an off-camber corner. Hard to get these bikes slowed down.
Steve Lamson now setting his sights on Ryan Hughes. He's probably about, I'd guess, a second behind Ryan Hughes, and in motocross, that's not very far away at all.
Well, look who's also coming into the screen. We saw a brief glimpse there of Kevin Windham, number 510. He has closed down a huge gap. Soon, I think he'll be challenging Robbie Raynard.
Well, Kevin Windham, of course, was very impressive earlier in the year. He's switching over to Yamaha next year to ride the 125. At least that's the plan. He's got a letter of intent. He'll take over Jeff Emmig's ride. That's not too bad a ride to have, is it, Jan?
You know, Jeff Emmig is known as Mr. 125, and as a matter of fact, he's going to ride to represent the USA in the Moto de Nations. That is Jeff Emmig. And then next year, Kevin Windham. Wow, look at Kevin Windham. Speaking of him, he's going to go by both of them.
Kevin Windham on the inside gets around Lamson on the outside. Robbie Raynard almost 3 wide as they come out of the turn down the hill. But what a move by Kevin Windham. You almost have to wonder if Steve Lamson was so intent on Robbie Raynard that it slowed him down. Now let's look back up front. There's a look at Doug Henry. And this is a little bit earlier. This is the pass for third place. You see Lammy on that off-camber corner.
You can see that he came in like we talked about previously. He got on the brakes real late. He just slid it in and took that position. But like you said, John, he was more concerned about Raynard, and then, oh, look. All of a sudden, Kevin Windham does no longer have that position. It looks like he must have bobbled, and they went back by him.
Well, we don't know exactly what happened, but Jan, when they're running so close together like that, as you said, just a little bitty slip, a little bitty bobble, and all of a sudden you have lost 2 positions. That is what's happened to Kevin Windham. Let's check into his pits.
Just when you thought it was safe to hang out in the pit board area. Hey, Kevin's looking pretty good. He's running a consistent 5th.
He's holding on pretty good. I'm trying to get him to pick it up a little bit and make a run at him, but I don't know if he will or not.
I was talking to him about being nervous down on the line. He didn't seem too psyched, but then he says he gets psyched on the practice lap.
Yeah, he usually stays pretty calm. Sometimes he even yawns, so you never know what to think about him, you know.
John, one of the things that I learned when you're sizing up the competition, that yawning actually means that you're nervous. So maybe he was more nervous than his father thought.
Most important thing I learned about that, yawning, Jan, it's your first name.
That's probably why I know so much about it, huh?
Are you nervous all the time, Jan? Doug Henry right now doesn't look like he's nervous at all. He is holding on to that #1 spot with Ryan Hughes right behind. There's his shot. This isn't the helicopter. This was from the hill overlooking. And you can see that Rhino closing down just a little bit as they go into the turn. But Doug was able to get on the gas, and he maintains that advantage.
This gives you an opportunity to see how much of an elevation change that you do have here, because like you said, John, it looked for a moment like it was the helicopter shot. Think about these riders' motivations. First of all, Doug Henry's got to be nervous. He only has to finish in the top 6. Ryan Hughes right there has to absolutely go for it, has to beat him, and has to hope that Henry has trouble. I think we'll see that play out, because look how fast here Hughes is closing.
Ryan Hughes definitely on the gas. He closes down the gap. They'll go into the ruts. Doug Henry manages to eke out a smallest of advantages. It's about a 3-bike length advantage for Doug Henry as we are midway through this first moto. Man, look at it. He's just worrying him to death, isn't he, Jan? He's waiting for Doug Henry to make a mistake. Now he'll go to the outside. Ryan Hughes down the hill, but it just doesn't work. Doug Henry using that outside line. He's able to hold him off the jumps there. And this is an area where Rhino could make his move as they come up the hill. Ryan just timing it perfectly. Makes a great move on the inside of Doug Henry, and Ryan Hughes has moved out into the lead. Man, that was great.
That whoop section of the course has to be all down to timing. And this time, Ryan Hughes had that timing absolutely perfect. Now, he has struggled in practice getting that timing down. But, boy, you know what? The timing was perfect for him getting in the rhythm for that pass.
Oh, that was just a thing of beauty. Ryan Hughes, as we get to look at it again, Jan.
Here he is back about a bike length or 2. They're pretty even, but right there, look at the drive. that was what made the difference. He cleared that one, kept his momentum going, went to the inside. You cannot make a better move than that. Ryan Hughes really gave us a lesson in how to ride over whoops there.
Well, you can see right there that Doug Henry landed short, and that upset his momentum, and Ryan Hughes landed perfectly. What a move he made. And look at that. Apparently, he's had a faster bike than Henry. Perhaps Henry was kind of holding him up a little bit because Rhino has pulled out to a pretty comfortable margin over Doug Henry. Well, Steve Lamson is riding along in third. He's followed by Robbie Raynard. Steve Lamson trying to hold off Robbie Raynard in a battle for third position. Welcome back to Steel City, USA, Delmont, Pennsylvania, round 12 out of 12 for the 1994 AMA 125 Outdoor Motocross Series.
Robbie Raynard is having a great run here. He's trying to close here on Steve Lamson on the Honda. Remember, Robbie Raynard has had a really tough season. He's had injury. He started off in a fantastic fashion by winning one of the motos in Gainesville, our first round. You know what? Being the factory Kawasaki rider, he really wants to try and win one of these so he can start next year on a higher note.
A 17-year-old kid with a huge contract, has all the pressure on the world on his shoulders, and he's been injured all year. I think you have to applaud him. He's in the top 10 in points. He's had some knocks and bruises and breaks and things this year, but he's done a great job of coming back. And look at this. Speaking of coming back, Steve Lamson is trying to chase down his teammate Doug Henry. There you get a good look at the interval. You can see on the left side of your screen that Ryan Hughes has pulled away from Henry. And once again, through some jumps, it looks like Lammy is able to cut the gap on second place Doug Henry.
There you can see the interval to the lead. We can see Lamson come to the inside. Now it's going to be a drag race up the hill.
Well, let's see if Doug Henry gives him that position. No, he doesn't. Henry gets back around, takes over, or retakes that second spot. You'd almost think that Henry, only needing a top 6 finish in the first moto, would let his teammate go by.
I think he should let him go by because Lamson has to catch Ryan Hughes if they're going to try and go for a Honda 1-2. Yeah, he looks over his shoulder. He's going to let him go by. Man, did we ever call that well?
I'm wondering, did Doug Henry just not realize that it was Steve Lamson trying to make the move on him? I mean, you know, it's kind of hard to see the number plate, Sean, but let's look at this. There's Lammy going in trying to take the spot.
He looks over his left shoulder and says, yep, I know you're there. He gets off the power. Come on, buddy. Come on by. Then he gets back on the throttle. Remember, Honda wants to try and finish 1-2. That's what we said in the opening. The only way that can happen is if Lamson beats Ryan Hughes.
And right now, Ryan Hughes has the lead. He came in here to the final round. As you get a look overhead from our helicopter, Rhino had a 7-point advantage over Steve Lamson for that second spot. So as long as Rhino stays out in front, Lammy can't catch him.
Now it looks also like Robbie Raynard. Look at that. That's a great way to see the interval between these three riders. And it looks like Robbie Raynard all of a sudden is really picking up the pace. I guess he figures that, well, maybe Doug Henry is going to let me go by, too.
Nah, fat chance. He's on a Kawasaki. No way. But there you see Lamson. Yeah, see, Doug Henry's going to try and hold off Robbie Raynard because, I mean, you might as well finish fourth. Even though you only need a 6th place finish in one of the motos, hey, why not just go for all the gusto you can? Let your teammate get by. But look at Raynard on the outside as it looks like Doug Henry takes it a little bit easier. Robbie Raynard trying to make that move, but just cannot pull it off.
Robbie Raynard was trying to cut to the inside there. This is going to be a great battle. We'll keep our eyes on. When we come back, we'll see if Robbie Raynard can come through.
The laps are fast, winding down here at Steel City, USA, Delmont, Pennsylvania. Jerry Bernardo down in the pits. John Beekes, John Kernan up here calling the action from our air-conditioned booth. Now we look at Doug Henry being chased now by Robbie Raynard.
Doug Henry has got to be thinking championship. He says, I'm right where I need to be. I know Ryan Hughes is out front, but all I have to do is stay here. Even if I let a couple guys go by, you know he's thinking about it. And here comes Robbie Raynard. Now, this is where Doug Henry can't take a chance. He'd almost be better off letting him go.
Well, Doug Henry doesn't let him go right now, but Raynard sweeping to the inside. Is he going to yell? Man, they touch just a little bit, and Robbie Raynard scoots around into that 3rd spot. But look at Doug Henry come back on the jumps. He retakes that position. You're not supposed to do that.
If I was Doug Henry, I would just let Robbie Raynard go. A championship is something that you only have a chance at once, or in his case, twice in a lifetime. But look, these guys are going at it. They love to race. Here comes Raynard back through again.
A little bit further back in the pack, Damon Huffman 6th, Jeff Emig is in 7th. These guys 4th and 5th in the points, and the way the points are right now, that's pretty much where they are going to stay and complete this season. Of course, Emig, the champion from back in 1992, will be moving up to the 250 class next year. Back up front, Ryan Hughes leading Steve Lamson, and there you get a good look at number 33 Kawasaki of Robbie Raynard.
This is a very important battle here. Steve Lamson is going to do everything in his power to close in on Hughes, because we talked about the fact that Hughes had a little bit of a point advantage coming in here for second in the championship. Right now, he's in a rhythm, but Lamson is just going to absolutely go for it.
Well, you got to figure that after first place, you're separated by 2 points for a little bit. So Steve Lamson now will be 10 points behind. He's running in second. If it finishes this way, he would be 10 points out of second place. So he definitely needs to get around. If he could get around and bypass Ryan Hughes and say they flip-flop, Jan, then he would cut that lead from 7 points at the beginning to 4 points. So it's a 6-point swing depending upon these two positions right here.
You know, even Ryan Hughes wouldn't mind letting Lamson go by if he could at least stay there, but he's got to be certain that he keeps his composure. When it comes to championship time, people are nervous. They're trying to stay loose. We know that on occasions Ryan Hughes gets a little bit tight. We'll have to see what happens here. We know that Lamson's got absolutely nothing to lose to go after this one.
Well, Steve Lamson certainly has to be disappointed. He started off the year in such great fashion. He led the points until a few weeks ago. Look at Lammy just get on the power. He outjumps Rhino, and Steve Lamson has moved into the lead, and that looked like a move by the Steve Lamson of old, the Lammy that we saw earlier this year, Mr. Consistency.
Earlier we saw a Kawasaki and a Honda working a course. That was the contact between Doug Henry and Robbie Raynard, but look at Doug Henry got back on the power and said, touche, buddy. But of course, there were other battles going on at the same time, and that, of course, was when they went back after each other, side by side up the hill. Finally, Doug Henry relinquishing that position. If you have a big screen TV, you may have seen on his rear end, he has a new pair of pants that Fox made him right there that doesn't say Henry like it usually does. It says repeat.
I didn't know you paid that much attention to these riders' rear end, John. Thank you very much. Here we are on the final lap, and oh, look at Raynard pulling alongside of Rhino. This is a battle for second place. Doug Henry is also closing it down. Steve Lamson is pulled away somewhat, but look at Robbie Raynard. Remember, he's the factory rider, and Ryan Hughes is the pro circuit rider.
These championships are so important to manufacturers that they have to tell Robbie Raynard not to pass Ryan Hughes if they want Kawasaki to stay second in the championship. But I don't think that Robbie Raynard has got that pit board, because right now he is putting Ryan Hughes in jeopardy.
And he goes right around. They come by the tree. Robbie Raynard, who took a different line 2 corners before that, scoots around and into second place. It's like, hey, I'm sorry, but I want to get up front. It's the last lap. I might still be able to chase down Steve Lamson.
You can see Ryan Hughes on the inside, and then you see Robbie Raynard look over, make what we call a late apex turn, get on the power, and then swoop around. First look like the outside, then cut to the inside. Look at this. Ryan Hughes off the track, but keeps it going. I think that Robbie Raynard is going to have to really seriously think about what his mechanics pit board says. But let's talk about the championship. The championship is winding down. It looks like, in fact, that we are going to have Doug Henry be the champion here, and the real battle is going to be what happens with Ryan Hughes. Now remember, if Doug Henry passes Ryan Hughes, that will make a tie between both Lamson and Hughes for second in the championship.
And that would mean it would all come down to that second moto. As you said, it looks like Doug Henry is going to wrap up his second consecutive 125 Outdoor Championship. He's still going at it with Rhino. Doug Henry doesn't look like a guy who hasn't wrapped up. He wants the third spot. Oh, the rear wheel kicks out, hits Rhino just a little bit, and Doug Henry scoots into the third position. Back up front, Steve Lamson with Robbie Raynard right there, but there's the checkered flag is out, and yes, Doug Henry third, Rhino is fourth. Lamson being congratulated, but more importantly, with his third place finish, Doug Henry wins his second consecutive AMA 125 Outdoor National Championship. Of course, Ryan Hughes now is tied with Steve Lamson as we get set for the start of Moto number 2. Let's go down to the pitch. Jerry Bernardo is with our Moto winner.
Hey, Lammy, I see everybody running over to that guy Henry because he won the championship. As far as I'm concerned, you put on a hell of a show in Moto 1 because you... Hey, knock it off. Was that Emig?
Yeah,
You just won the Moto. Goggles on. Talk now.
Well, I can't say anything about Doug. He rode a good race. And
Now, let's talk about you.
okay, I rode awesome.
You
that
rode
moto.
an
I was
awesome race.
probably about 5th, and then I kind of just worked up, and passed Ryan on the, I think, 2 laps to go. Pretty hairball crash. We almost hit, but held in there and rode a good race.
Something went on back there because he dropped back to like 4th.
Yeah, I heard the crowd do something, and heard somebody coming up on me. I knew he wasn't. I knew it had to have been Robbie, you know. So.
All right, well, this puts you moving up closer towards a better finish for the overall for the year. You put on a good show. We knew you could do it. You had it in you.
Yeah, I did. I can do it again.
Yeah,
One more.
Unga.
Unga.
But the Unga of the day goes to Doug Henry. He sweeps around Ryan Hughes on the last lap, finishes 3rd, and wraps up his 2nd straight national championship.
Hey, you're all hot and sweaty. Congratulations, man. Are you happy?
Oh, yeah.
Doug, congratulations. Gee, you're a swell kid.
Thanks a lot.
So, yeah, this moto, you know, you didn't win. I talked to Lammy first because he won the moto, but you won the championship. The big dollars, the #1 plate rights, bragging rights, and you're riding fast.
Yeah, it was a great ride out there. I was riding I think I was riding a little tight at first, and I don't know, I just started relaxing towards the end. I started catching up to those guys, and I started feeling good.
How come they always give you the hat like 7 sizes too big so your ears are under like a geek truck driver?
I guess